Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Makai McDermott and today I'm here to show you an actual detailed boho knotless braids hair tutorial with human hair. I haven't seen anyone achieve the look that I really wanted on YouTube, so I thought I would go ahead and document my process. Let's start off with everything that I used to achieve this hairstyle. This is Expressions braiding hair. I used the pre-stretched packet. I'll stretch it out so you can see. I would also recommend Impressions braiding hair. I find that Impressions isn't as coarse, so if you prefer that like very silky, sleek look, you may get that with Impressions braiding hair as opposed to Expressions. I ended up using Expressions in color 1 because I dye my hair jet black, but you can get any color you like. And I only really used, like I said, 2 packs of hair. I bought some body wave bundles and I washed and dyed them before I use them, but you will have to cut the hair off the weft and then brush out the filler hairs. You have to brush those out as well. I ended up using 2.5 bundles of this hair. This is all I have left, so I almost used 3 bundles, I would say. This is like half a bundle. You can alternatively use loose wave bundles, which I also used the previous time I had this hairstyle. If you follow me on TikTok, you'll see when I went to Puglia in Italy, I had this hairstyle as well, but I used loose wave bundles. This time I chose body wave because I wanted more of a straight, soft wave look. Whereas I felt like the loose wave one had a bit more wave, a bit more body to it, a bit more mess. And also in terms of the length of hair extensions, you also need to get long bundles. I think I bought 3 bundles of 22 inches. If you buy short bundles, you won't have the long, flowing, effortless bohemian look. They'll be very short, they'll be frizzy, and you'll have a lot of disconnect in the shaft of your hair. You can make these small adaptations if you would like to. To braid my hair, I use the Bread hair cream. It's like a leave-in curl cream type of situation, but it just, for me anyway, it gives my hair slip and allows it to just fold into the hair extensions nicely. I know a lot of people use wax, but wax really doesn't work very well for me, and it also leaves a residue on your scalp that doesn't go even after you shampooed your hair. I just didn't want my scalp to feel suffocated and itchy. And then if you have any pieces that are just very stubborn sticking out, which might be towards the end of your hair when you want it to really join in with your hair extensions, I use the Schwarzkopf Got to Be Glued. This is the styling gel for edges. I find that a little bit of this goes such a long way, so you don't have to have your hair caked up in hair gel, and it can actually be a protective hairstyle. Also, I have the Olaplex No. 6 leave-in styling treatment, and I just applied this to the entire braid after I dipped it in hot water. So when I got to the end, you'll see me use this and like apply it to the hair extensions. Onto the equipment, I used a metal rat tail comb. You can use a plastic one if you'd like. I just find that the metal ones part your hair very nicely and super clean. As well as duckbill clips. I don't know what these are called. And these smaller metal clips. These are very good for holding just one piece of hair out of the way whilst you're braiding. And these are very good at keeping your hair out of the way whilst you like part the next row. So I'd recommend these over the plastic ones. And then you also need some hairbands. These are just like ouchless hairbands. Literally any hairbands will do. In total, this hairstyle took me, I think on day 1, I spent 12 hours braiding and I got 3/4 of the way through. I literally had 1/4 left, and I took 2 small breaks, but it was 12 hours. And then today, I think took me another 4 hours. So altogether, it was 16 hours of braiding, painstaking braiding before you start. Make sure you have 2 days, maybe even 3 days if you don't know how to braid or you can't braid as well as like a hairstylist or someone who does hair can. Give yourself like the weekend because it does take a long time. But as you guys can see, I ended up with something that is super neat. Like my hair is really neat all the way through, and I did it very long, but I really had a vision of what I wanted in my head. And as you'll see in the video, I was very patient with myself, and I think you have to be patient as well. For each braid, I used 3 strands of the human hair. So every single braid has 3 pieces of human hair. 1, 2, 3, and then 1 at the bottom. Well, that makes 4, Makai. So 4 pieces per braid. So I think that's also why I ended up using 2.5 bundles of hair. So you can alternatively use less, but keep in mind that if you use less, your overall look may be more braided as opposed to braided with the pieces of like bohemian hair sort of going through it. Another great tip is when you get halfway, look at how your hair is looking. If you want it to be like a certain look or a certain way, you have to keep stopping and checking. If you feel like there's too many human hair pieces and you want there to be slightly less, that will mean you need to adjust for when you carry on with the next half of your head. If there aren't enough, this is your chance now to correct that and add more pieces as you go forward with the hairstyle. I have an example from the last time I did my hair. I noticed when I got halfway, I had too many pieces of the hair extensions, the human hair extensions. So for the next section, I didn't do as many pieces, and that sort of balanced itself out. Also, this is a very difficult hairstyle, and I say that as someone who was a celebrity hairstylist. Like, I've done hair for years and this is hard. You have to calculate how much hair extensions to use, how much braiding hair to use. So that's basically all the tips I can think of. I hope this video is helpful and shows someone who wants their hair like mine, but they can't find any videos. Let's get into this lengthy process. Here are my body wave bundles, freshly washed and dyed jet black. I cut the hair away from the weft, and then I will brush through the hair just to get rid of any short or shed / filler hairs that they use. That's what you'll be left with. That can be thrown away, and now you have your hair. For parting, I use a mirror to the side of me and I part my hair first into halves, into the front and back half. As you can see, I take my time doing this and I sort of part maybe several times just to make sure it's even and it's exactly what I want. I think it's pretty important that you get a clean part before you begin, as this essentially determines the halves of your head that you'll be working on. So if it's wonky, your whole braiding system will be wonky, and nobody wants that. Once you have separated your hair into two, you are then going to make another part directly down the center of your head. This is if you want a middle parting for your braids, which I always do, and then I'm going to put those away essentially, and I'm going to be working across 3 sections of my head. I have seen some people do more, but 3 is genuinely what has worked for me. And now I'm going to make my first parting, and this determines how thick or full you want your hair to be. So I finalize my part by using my iPhone. By the way, I use the camera and then I show the back of my head as well as a mirror. So I'm taking the expressions and braiding it into my natural hair, and I put the expressions underneath my natural hair, and that's how I add the hair in. I keep adding very small pieces so that I don't have like a bump at the start of my braid, and that's how you get the knotless part of this hairstyle. With the human hair, I add the blunt end into the braid and leave the ends that has the curl pattern out. So I add in the short part, and you want to add in enough, I would say at least 3 inches, to make sure that it doesn't slide out of your braid. I continue to add the expressions braiding hair until I get the length and thickness that I desire. And for the human hair extensions, I add in about 4 or 5 strands per braid. And here I am after completing the first row, which I did 5, and you can see it's getting on quite well. So we're going to follow that same pattern throughout our entire head. I add in the expressions in very small amounts to avoid having a bump at my root. And then I add in the human braiding hair, making sure to use the blunt section within the braid and leaving the part with the curl pattern outside of the braid. Make sure to add the human hair extensions evenly throughout each braid. Here I am at the halfway point. On my top row, that should have ideally been split into 2 rows, but I was really tired. I think I was about 8 hours in at this point. And now we're going to start the front section of our hair. Now, when I do the perimeter braids, so the braids around my edges, I do these shorter to minimize the tension from pulling, styling, etc. And my edges are fine, so I have to take extra care when I am doing braids to make sure that I don't add too much weight or length to this area of my hair. For my perimeter braids, I knew I needed them to be quite small, so I started off my first row with 4 braids. And again, making sure that when I'm adding in the body wave human hair, I'm doing it at an equal distance throughout my entire braid. And so we continue on. I think this must have been about 10 hours in, and I'm still following the same pattern, and with these braids just around my edges, so the first row going down, I keep these all shorter than the braids at the back of my head. At this point, I wasn't sure if I wanted to finish my entire head in one day, but I actually decided to head to bed after braiding for about 12 hours. So that was my first day, and this is day 2. I'm quite far ahead now, and I'm just following the same formula, which is adding the expressions in small amounts so that I don't have a lump at the base of my braid, and adding in the body wave human hair in equal distances, so making sure that I add one at the top, one in the middle, one 75% down, and then of course adding one right at the end. And I use the knot method. I don't use nail glue. I just tie the end of the hair 3 or 4 times into a knot, and that's what works best for me. I don't really like using nail glue. I think the fumes are pretty strong and you're sort of exposing yourself to it over a long period of time. And here I am on the final braid, still keeping to the same formula of braiding, adding one at equal times, and just essentially making sure that I followed the same formula and distance throughout my entire head. I braid in the human hair down to the end, and then when I have just the body wave hair showing, I take a small amount of the expressions which is left at the end of the hair and make 3 knots to secure my braid. In the end, this took me 16 to 17 hours, so I spent 5 hours on day 2 and 12 hours on day 1. And now when I'm all done, you can see one side I have dipped into boiling hot water, and I'm now dipping the other side into the boiling water. Be very careful with this. If you've seen my chest burn, I literally got it from doing this and rushing. So please take your time. And I'm using an old towel that I use for all my hair dye crazy DIY stuff. And you're just going to take that hot towel and smooth it down the entire braid. Of course, you can't dip up to your scalp, so I like to use the residual on the towel to just make sure that I get my roots so that your hair has that really lovely flow and just looks effortless and like you woke up like this. I'm going in with my Olaplex number 6, I believe. This is the leave-in cream. I really like this. It makes my hair feel really soft, and it will probably do the same for the body wave hair extensions. Here is my hair. This is how it looks. It is very full considering that I only use 2 packs of hair extensions, but you guys can see the look that I wanted. I wanted that like bohemian, messy, you know the vibes. The girls that get it. Like, you know exactly how I wanted it to be. Let me know how it goes in the comments if you do decide to try it out. And thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy my content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.